Broadcasting live from California, get ready for an hour of pure, unapologetic conservative talk radio. Liberals beware, because this is the Wise Conservative Show.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. Now, we did actually see a lot of different things go down this past week, but one thing that I'm going to be focusing on in particular for this first segment is this judge who just recently blocked Trump's sanctuary city plan. Now, we have definitely seen a lot of different orders that the Trump administration has put forth that has been blocked by judges, especially there in that Ninth Circuit up in Washington. So we've seen a lot of this happen, and it's kind of been unprecedented, the amount of orders that have been blocked in recent history. And this political, or judicial rather, activism that has been happening is happening at unprecedented levels, and it's rather worrying, actually. But we're actually seeing now that this judge who blocked the Trump order is a Democrat activist. He has been seen as a Democrat activist, not just a normal one, a hardcore Democrat activist whose life has been steeped in liberal politics ever since he was a kid. Judge William Orrick III, who is now 63, he's the one that on Tuesday blocked that the order where the Trump administration was going to withhold funds from sanctuary cities. Well, he attended the landmark 1968 DNC as a teen, and more recently, he raised money for 2004 presidential candidate John Kerry. Quote, "I will not let my personal views interfere with the administration of justice." This is the judge speaking. He said this in 2013. "I have never let my political beliefs affect my legal judgment and believe that politics have no place in the courtroom." Ironic that he's saying that, because we have seen him now act politically to block a Trump order. So we can see that now an attorney who has argued cases before this judge said, quote, "He's definitely one of the more openly liberal-leaning judges on the bench based on several rulings he's made over the years." And we can definitely see that this latest ruling was very blatantly judicial activism. And this is an issue. Judges are put into place to administer the law, to dole out punishments for those who don't follow the law. Judges are put into place to follow the Constitution. That's why they're in place. Judges are not in place to rule based on their political leanings. And that's exactly how this judge acted. There is no way whatsoever that withholding funds from sanctuary cities violates the Constitution. And that is the only grounds that he has to actually stand on here. That's the only grounds that he can even attempt to claim. But there is no way whatsoever that withholding these funds from illegal sanctuary cities is unconstitutional. We're seeing that this is judicial activism in its prime. Something that should not exist. Something that conservatives have time after time not done. But we've seen within the past couple months, liberals do time after time. We've seen liberal judges throughout the entire country, whether it be in Hawaii, Washington, where have you, wherever it is, liberal judges just cannot get over the fact that they lost the election. So now they're doing whatever they can, acting very petty, acting like babies, and they're ruling things unconstitutional that simply are not unconstitutional. We can clearly see that this is illegal what they're doing. This should not be legal. They should not be able to rule based on their personal opinions, but rather based on the law, and there is no lawful ground for this judge to stand on. Furthermore, going into his background here, we can see that Orrick actually got one of his first tastes of politics when he was just a mere 15 years old. He went with his father, who was a delegate for Robert Kennedy, he was a delegate for Robert Kennedy just 2 months before he was assassinated. And he went with his father to the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago. Quote, there was fighting going on inside the convention as well as outside. This is what Oreck told news agencies. And get this story that he was interviewing for was about prominent left-wing judges. So he's known to be radically left. He is known to be left-wing, and yet he's still able to make these decisions. Now, Oreck would then go on to attend Yale and Boston College Law School. But at the time of this actual report that I just spoke of, Oreck was actually a lawyer for a San Francisco firm with deep ties to the Democratic Party. He had helped organize a nationwide effort dubbed, quote, Lawyers for Kerry, and was credited with raising more than $1 million for Kerry in the San Francisco area alone. And when Kerry announced that he would not seek his party's nomination in 2007, a core group or a dozen attorneys met with Oreck's firm, which was that San Francisco-based firm, and they effectively became lawyers for Obama. The group became this kind of built-in network of fundraisers for the Obama campaign right then and there. And now, as this bundler for Obama, Oreck raised at least $200,000, and this is according to records obtained by the watchdog group Public Citizen. And from the same group, the same watchdog group, according to Public Citizen, quote, a bundler plays an enormous role in determining the success of political campaigns and are apt to receive preferential treatment if their candidate wins. Now, a few months after this, after President Obama actually was elected, Oreck told a reporter that he wanted a job in the new administration, saying, quote, I contacted anybody I could think of to say, let me serve. And one of his fellow judges was actually quoted in saying, he's not in it for glory. He's doing it because he really believes in Obama. So Oreck's first position in Obama's administration was in the civil division in the Department of Justice, and this was near the end of Obama's second term. And that's when he was appointed to his current post then. Other attorneys, also who are anonymous in this, have complained publicly about Oreck. One commenter said, quote, social justice activist for whom the rule of law is a quaint, malleable notion of no import. So it's definitely known that he rules based on bias. It's definitely known that he is anti-conservative, that he is a very radical liberal, that he has been very active within liberal policies just in recent history. And yet this man claims that he's making fair, unbiased rulings in the court. He is claiming that he is doing this for the betterment of our nation. He is claiming that he is actually helping our nation. But we can clearly see that he is just doing this because he is sick that Donald Trump won, because he doesn't believe that conservative policies are good. He should not be allowed to stay in the court. He should not be allowed to be a judge anymore, because he has proven that he cannot and will not rule based on the law. He has proven time after time that he is a leftist, and that is all he is. That he doesn't identify as a judge of the United States, but a judge for the liberals. As an activist for the liberal side, an activist for Democrats, for John Kerry, for President Obama. He's not an unbiased judge. And I've heard Democrats and liberals saying, oh, this is good, this is what we needed, this is fair, Donald Trump deserved this. Now, they've said this about this recent ruling, as well as the travel ban rulings. But they have no basis for it. They say, oh, it's unconstitutional. And this is the first time, these 3 rulings actually, these are the first times in history that I have ever heard a Democrat claiming that constitutionality is a good thing. It's the first time I haven't heard them complaining that old white slave-owning men wrote it. It's funny how they try to use the Constitution as an argument, yet they don't support it themselves. It is the conservative side that time after time defends and supports and uplifts the Constitution. And it is the Democrats, the left, that time after time tear it down, claim that it doesn't work in our society anymore. But then when they can, they use it as an argument. And it makes no sense as to why they think they can get away with this. Why they think they can just change an entire nation. Why they think they can legislate through the judicial branch. We already saw that legislation happening through the judicial branch in the Supreme Court with gay marriage. We've seen it with these bans, stopping the ban on travel. We see it now. For some reason, Democrats think that they can legislate through the judicial branch. And this is not why it was made. This is not what judges are meant to do. Judges are just meant to rule on the law, meant to have an unbiased, bipartisan ruling. Not a partisan, very biased liberal viewpoint being put into all of their decisions. This is, again, just time after time, the left proving something. The left proving that they don't care about our nation, that they don't care about our Constitution, that they don't care about what our founders wanted. This is the left proving that they have no regard to how our country ought to run. They would rather pull down our entire nation than accept the fact that they lost the election. It's a dangerous mentality that they're working with here. They are trying to pull down the Trump administration, trying to make him look bad, trying to say that everything he does is unconstitutional because they don't politically agree with it. And as a whole, this is pulling down our entire government, our entire nation. They believe that if they can't win, then nobody should. That if they can't be in the White House, then we shouldn't have a government at all, that we shouldn't have a nation at all. Because that's how it seems right now, from the riots to these rulings in the court. The left is acting like crybabies, like snowflakes. Like they're stuck in some alternate reality. They are living in their own delusional world where this is okay, where ruling based on politics is okay, where issuing riots and hurting people in them is okay if it's in the name of, as they would say, anti-fascism or equality. But they're not being equal. They're being more fascist than anyone on the right. They're being contradictory time after time. The left is sort of just going haywire ever since the election, whether it be riots or even just these rulings. It has to change sooner or later. And we definitely see that our colleges are facing this new wave of, well, they call it protests, but we all know it's riots. I believe it's been 3 different riots at Berkeley so far. And we all know that Berkeley is a very liberal college. Time after time, they have blocked conservative speakers. Just recently, I believe Ann Coulter pulled out of a speech there because of safety reasons. So it's definitely a very liberal and a very dangerous school. But that's not the only college that is doing this kind of thing. We're seeing our colleges across the entire nation are facing protests and riots. Just in the past recent months, we've seen a lot of universities actually gearing up for these protests because they don't know when they're going to be next. A lot of campus police are now trying new tactics to try to keep these events peaceful. In some cases, it is working, but in a lot of cases, it isn't. Other schools have actually abruptly canceled controversial speakers over safety concerns. Just as Ann Coulter didn't get her event canceled, she backed out because of safety concerns. We've seen Ben Shapiro have his events canceled because of safety concerns. The list goes on and on. A lot of any conservative speaker is labeled controversial, and their safety is at risk because of these liberals on campus. And we've seen that police from about 40 schools actually took part in now a protest preparation and response trainings in March here in California, Indiana, and even Maryland. And another session is going to take place tomorrow at the University of Hartford in Connecticut. At Vermont's Middlebury College in March, protesters shouted down a guest speaker. A professor was injured in a melee attack afterwards. He was stabbed. And we can see the previous month at Berkeley, 3 people were arrested in a protest that stopped a speech of a right-wing commentator. 6 people were injured in that protest, as they call it. But we all know that's not a protest. We all know that they're not peacefully protesting. The second they start being violent, it becomes a riot. And we see up in Berkeley, I talked about this a little last week, but we still see these groups of what are called Antifa members. These are the anti-fascist, as they claim to be. And anywhere they are, they're violent. Whether it be Berkeley or any other school across the nation, they're violent, and they're causing these riots. They're causing these dangerous events. And it's harming our nation. It's harming our school system. It's harming our students. It's harming free speech in America. Now, this connects directly with what I was just talking about with judicial activism. Because this is the left, once again, trying to silence anyone who is on the right. This is liberals trying to force their extremist views down everyone's throats, saying that if you don't think the same way as us, then you don't think right. That's all this is. That's what the left is doing here. That's what Democrats are doing here. And that's what the extremist Antifa members are doing here. They're saying that if you don't think like we want you to think, then we're going to attack you. We're going to limit your rights. We're going to hurt you, kick you out, and stop you from speaking on our campuses. And this event, this whole conundrum like this, isn't new. It has definitely gotten worse and worse since the election of Donald Trump. But blocking conservative speakers, this is not a new thing. We've seen it for years on end because these campuses have become so liberal that they can't take any other viewpoint. They become so filled with snowflakes that anytime someone disagrees with them, they just all melt. They all freak out. And it has completely destroyed our education system in this nation. Because you can't have a logical discussion anymore. You can't have educational debates anymore. You can't discuss things like adults on these college campuses. Because when you try and bring out facts that prove someone else wrong, you're suddenly bigoted, you're suddenly racist, a misogynist, whatever other words they call you. Because if they disagree with you, once again, then you're not right. And this is the mentality that we've seen the Democrats as a whole take up since the election, basically, but even before that, they started it. We've seen them take up this whole new mentality and forge their entire party around it. From members of Congress still to this day blocking confirmation of Trump appointees, to the courts with judicial activism, and even to protests and riots on college campuses. They have formed their entire liberal ideology around the fact that if you don't agree with them, that you're automatically wrong. That is a dangerous, dangerous precedent to be setting, and it is a dangerous mentality to be using. All right, I'm going to take one quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is The Wise Conservative Show. Hi, everybody. Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from The Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And every time that these universities take up this new social change that they're trying to promote, every time they take that up, they are taking away from that education instead. because now they're focusing on these social changes instead of learning like they should be.
Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
Have you ever wanted to stand up to your liberal professor? Have you ever wanted to help expand the conservative movement? Well, it sounds like you would be a perfect fit for Youth Revolt. Youth Revolt is a team of dedicated young conservatives fighting liberal indoctrination within our school system. If you're interested in being a part of this team by being a columnist or even hosting your own radio show, go ahead and click the Join Now tab at the top of youthrevolt.org. You'll be asked to answer a few questions, and a Youth Revolt team member will respond to you quickly. Be a part of something bigger than you. Be a part of Youth Revolt. Speak without fear.
My friends, I'm going to be blunt with you. There are a lot of frauds out there today. People who claim to be conservatives and yet, in one way or another, believe that more government is the solution to our problems. That's not what conservatism is about, and even more than that, that's not what our Constitution is about. I'm Jason Veely, a recent college grad who has the guts to say what needs to be said without pulling any punches. On my radio show, you can expect 100% pure conservatism every single weeknight at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Join me as we discuss history, liberty, and conservative philosophy in a style that is just as entertaining as it is educational. Who says we can't have fun tearing down the liberal establishment? Tune in to the Jason Veely Program live every weeknight at 7 o'clock on youthrevolt.org. I'll see you out on the battlefield.
Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate!
Love trumping hate involves a lot more assault and arson than I expected. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt. Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. Once again, I am your host, Connor Wise. Now, we already knew that this is what Donald Trump wanted to move to next, and it's what he and all of the establishment Republicans said that they were going to be doing next. But now we're seeing that the Trump team is going to be proposing massive tax cuts and a new reform plan. They outlined a sweeping tax reform plan just today that calls for, quote, massive cuts for businesses and other changes that could yield big savings for American families. Now, this plan swiftly drew congressional criticism about the potential impact on the deficit, but administration officials voiced optimism that the proposal would spur economic growth, and they said that they'd reduce tax breaks elsewhere. Quote, "We have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to do something really big. Tax reform is long overdue." That was White House economic advisor Gary Cohn. Now, as the administration definitely nears the end of its first 100 days, Cohn and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin provided the contours of the administration's long-awaited tax plan, and this was in White House briefings with reporters. The plan would slashed the corporate tax rate from 35% down 20% to a 15% rate. Small business owners could also benefit from that rate. The plan also would collapse the income tax system from 7 brackets to a mere 3 brackets, 10%, 25%, and 35%. Now, currently the top rate is 39.6%. The administration is looking as well to double the standard deduction or the amount of income individuals and families can report to the IRS tax-free. The current standard deduction would rise from $6,300 to $12,600 for individuals under the proposal. For married couples filing jointly, it would rise from $12,600 to roughly $24,000. Now, earlier today, they also called it, quote, the biggest tax cut and the largest tax reform in the history of our country. And this is definitely a big deal because this plan will immediately actually face these questions on Capitol Hill. And this is over the impact that they're expecting it to have on the federal deficit and budget. And this is definitely considering the fact that these tax cuts proposed or even just listed out here would presumably represent billions of dollars that are lost in revenue for the government every year. The Senate Finance Committee ranking member Ron Wyden, who is a Democrat from Oregon, issued a statement calling it, quote, unprincipled tax plan that will result in cuts for the 1%, conflicts for the president, crippling debt for America, and crumbs for the working people. And this is, once again, just Democrats not really knowing what they're talking about. Because this is not just a tax cut for the top 1%, as they like to say. This is not just a tax cut for those who are actually making the most money, but rather a tax cut for all of America. A tax cut that has been long needed, a tax cut that is long overdue. This is a tax cut for everybody. And that's a big deal. We can see that this is definitely going to eliminate most tax breaks that benefit high-income taxpayers. But at the same time, they said that popular tax breaks like the mortgage interest and charitable deductions would still be preserved. Now, administration officials are saying that they want to get to work with Congress as soon as possible. And a statement from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and House Speaker Paul Ryan, and of course other top GOP lawmakers, said, quote, the principles outlined by the Trump administration today will serve as critical guideposts for Congress and the administration as we work together to overhaul the American tax system and ensure the middle-class families and job creators are better positioned for the 21st century economy. Now, this is exactly what is going to happen with this. This plan also would eliminate the estate tax, and this is something that Republicans have often tried to get rid of. It is essentially the death tax, as I've referred to it before, and as many people refer to it. And it would also get rid of the 3.8% tax on investment income that Obamacare put into place. Now, this plan would definitely simplify the tax system. And this is definitely the underlying goal, according to administration officials. They noted that the increase in the standard deduction would mean far fewer households would have to itemize their deductions. They also called for a one-time tax on corporate money overseas, predicting that that would actually bring trillions of dollars back to the United States, which it would. Now, while this isn't the most perfect tax plan, and it definitely will have a few flaws, every tax plan does. I mean, taxes aren't a good thing inherently, so there's always going to be flaws in them. This is way better than the current system, because in the current system, people are taxed almost to death. We see that you are completely punished for working out better, for having more money, being more successful in our current system. In the status quo of our tax system, if you are a successful businessman, you're hurt more than the average American. And that's not how taxes should work. Taxes should not keep you from wanting to achieve great things. But that's how our current system is. Taxes should actually just, fund the government, but that's it. They shouldn't be overfunding. They shouldn't have more and more money and just keep increasing the government size so that they can keep increasing taxes. What needs to happen, and what the Trump administration has already said they're going to do, is not only do you limit down how many taxes you're taking in, but you also limit the size of the federal government. And that is what conservatives have been running on for years, for decades, for centuries. Limited government and low taxes. It's crazy to believe that our forefathers fought a war over a 3% tax. But then we look at the taxes that are going on in our nation nowadays, it's outrageous. I mean, without this new proposal from the Trump administration, there's literally a tax on giving your belongings when you die to your loved ones. The death tax. And that's not okay. We have been taxed into oblivion, and change is needed. Now, one of the most famous parts of the Ronald Reagan administration was when he signed the tax cuts and the front lawn of his ranch out here in California. Now, that was one of the biggest and most memorable moments of the Reagan administration for a reason. It's not because he was a prominent conservative that I remember that specific moment. It's because taxes are hated in America and across the entire world, and quite honestly too high right now. And anytime anyone cuts taxes, it's a good thing. Now, we've had politicians lie about this time after time, from Bush Sr. saying no more taxes, even to Obama saying that he wasn't going to raise taxes that much on the average American. But we've seen that as these taxes get raised on what the left likes to call the 1%, it's the middle class that hurts. Because when those business owners have to pay more and they don't have as much profit, they have to raise their prices. They have to lay off employees. The people buying that product and the people working in those places, those businesses, those are the middle class Americans. And they're directly affected by it. When the left calls for the 1% to pay, quote, their fair share, they're really hurting the middle class Americans. They're really hurting you, me, or everyone that is just the average American, because we have to pay the higher prices. We can't get as many jobs anymore. All of it is affected. But I want to understand liberals to understand that. I want to expect them to understand that, because it seems like they don't understand economics. They don't understand the fact that, yeah, there is this trickle-down effect. Now, I'm not saying that Reagan's trickle-down economics necessarily worked very well, but there still is a trickle-down effect of when you raise taxes on the upper class, the middle and the lower classes are hurt. That is just logic. That is basic economics. And conservatives know that. And that's why we always propose tax cuts. We always actually put forth these plans for tax cuts, because they're desperately needed. Because, yeah, while the top 1% does actually have to pay less taxes in this plan, so does the middle class. So does the lower class. This is a cut for all different sections. Instead of having so many different sections and brackets to pay, there's now 3 simple brackets. So they can't raise the taxes so much on if you earn $1 more than the person next to you. That's not how it's going to work anymore. Americans are actually going to be able to keep their own money Americans are going to be able to put that money back into the economy. And our economy is going to take off. And while this does cut billions of dollars from the budget, that's a good thing, folks. We don't need to be expanding our government more and more. Because when the government has more and more money, they don't allow it to just go into a surplus. That's not how the federal government ever works. They'll just keep expanding governmental programs. So maybe them getting cut back a few $1 billion is going to kick them into gear and tell them, hey, maybe we should get rid of these useless programs. Maybe we should stop expanding the government. Because expanding the government doesn't work. Maybe we should actually help out Americans instead of regulating and taxing them into oblivion. Maybe they'll finally realize that when they're cut a few $1 billion short from this new tax plan. Obviously, the Trump administration fell flat on healthcare. We saw that. But hopefully they get this right. Hopefully they do pass through this proposal. Because tax cuts are something that everyone should be able to agree on. Taxes are something that everyone in this party are going to agree on, because if you're a conservative, you want tax cuts. If you're a conservative, you want that small government, less money going to it, and more money staying in the pockets of Americans. So I do believe this will go through Congress rather quickly. It will actually work, and it's going to be put into place. And this is a good thing. Americans are going to prosper under this. America as a whole is going to prosper. And this is something that definitely was a good reason that Donald Trump is in office. He has actually worked with different loopholes and everything in the tax code as the head of a giant conglomerate. He knows the loopholes that they need to close. He knows that it was too burdensome before. He knows what to do with the tax code because he has directly experienced the burden that it was put on the upper class and the burden that then trickled down to the middle and lower classes. He knows all of that. And the fact that he knew that, the fact that he looked at it, shows that this is going to work out, that he did put together a plan that will work. Now, I'm just letting you guys know now. You are going to be seeing a lot of numbers coming out of liberal different organizations, liberal organizations, that are going to be rating how well his tax plan will work. And they're all going to say that it'll fail utterly. They're all going to say that this is going to put our nation probably $30 trillion in debt, because they don't take into account anything besides just the loss in revenue. But when you actually take into account the fact that this is going to kickstart our economy by allowing people to keep more money, allowing people to put that money back into our nation, then we're not going to be short on money, and we might actually be able to continue working to work off that debt. We already saw Donald Trump's administration work off a little bit of the debt from 19.9 to 19.8 trillion in 1 month. They're already working to that. They know how economics work. And it's good because we have not had a president or an administration that actually takes into account economics in way too long. And this will be a good sight, a good future, something that is going to help America prosper once again. I'm going to take one more quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show. Hi, everybody. Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. How haven't all of these protesters realized that they are the exact reason why Donald Trump was elected in the first place? How haven't they realized that them being crybabies about every single thing in life is exactly why the American people rose up and voted for Donald Trump? They are the whole reason that they have all this misery currently.
If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Get out of here, you idiot. Sorry about that, folks. Jason Veely here, host of the Jason Veely program. I'm a 22-year-old conservative who is fired up and ticked off at the direction the progressive left have taken this country. Join me every weeknight at 7 o'clock as we promote liberty, advance conservative principle, and work to restore the Constitution of the United States. I can get loud and I can get passionate. How can we afford not to when so much is on the line? Tune in to the Jason Veely program, live every weeknight at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on youthrevolt.org. I'll see you out on the battlefield.
Hi everybody, Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. And every time that these universities take up this new social change that they're trying to promote, every time they take that up, they are taking away from that education instead. Because now they're focusing on these social changes instead of learning like they should be.
Calling all young conservatives. Have you ever wanted to write for an online publication? What about host your own conservative radio program? Now you can, thanks to youthrevolt.org. Youth Revolt is a conservative media network for young people, the goal of which is to educate our fellow Americans and also to expose the left-wing indoctrination that goes on in classrooms across the country. Become part of a team that is dedicated to taking the country back, one radio program or opinion column at a time. If you're interested, go to youthrevolt.org and click on Join Us on the top of the page. Fill out our brief questionnaire, and one of our representatives will be in touch with you in no time at all. The time to reclaim our future is now. Be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and join the movement today. Youth Revolt. Speak without fear. Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate!
Love trumping hate involves a lot more assault and arson than I expected. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt. Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. Once again, I'm your host, Connor Wise. Now, we talked a lot about tax breaks in that last segment. I mean, that was all it was. But let's actually look at something that Trump tried to do already. Paul Ryan took it over and completely destroyed it. And now the UN is actually warning about it. We're seeing that the United Nations now warned the Trump administration, and this was actually earlier this year that they warned them, that repealing Obamacare without providing an adequate replacement would be a violation of multiple international laws. Now, we already know that the Trump administration is likely to ignore this UN warning. The Washington Post reported the Office of the UN High Commission on Human Rights in Geneva sent an urgent appeal on the 2nd of February. The Post reported that the confidential 5-page memo cautioned that the repeal of the Affordable Care Act would put the U.S., quote, at odds with its international obligations. The warning was sent to the State Department and reportedly said the UN expressed serious concern about the prospective loss of health coverage for 30 million people and that in turn could violate, quote, the right to Social Security of the people in the United States. Congressional Republicans failed in March to pass this bill, obviously. Now, a new proposal is actually emerging on Capitol Hill, but it's still unclear what might be considered within it and how sweeping this repeal may be. A spokesman for the UN's Human Rights Office confirmed the authenticity of the letter, which was sent by a Lithuanian doctor who serves the UN as, quote, special rapporteur on the right of everyone to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. That is a long title. Xavier Salaya, who is a spokesman for the UN, said that Puris, who is that doctor, cannot comment on his Obamacare letter until it becomes public in June. Though the report calls out the Trump administration, there's very little that the UN can actually do here. Now, according to the report, the letter sent to the Trump administration also was supposed to be shared with the majority and minority leaders in both houses of Congress, but that did not happen. Now, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, their offices said that they never received the letter, as well as officials in Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell's offices. The letter from Puris did make its way to the Department of Health and Human Services, where an unnamed employee supposedly leaked it to the Washington Post. And I always find it hilarious, actually, when the UN tries to act like they even have grounds to condemn the United States for anything. Especially on something such as human rights, which healthcare isn't a human right, but that's a whole nother discussion. The fact that Saudi Arabia, who has been known to commit multiple human rights violations time after time, is on the Human Rights Council in the UN, automatically nullifies everything that it says. The fact that they actually allow people who commit human rights violations on the council proves that it has no grounds to stand on whatsoever. Furthermore, the UN has no authority to tell us what to do. Essentially, we are the UN's enforcement team. The UN has no grounds in trying to enforce this. The UN has no way in trying to condemn us for it. We are the UN, essentially. The United States and Russia are basically the UN. And that's the end of it. There's nothing else, because those small nations don't really have any say. They can't tell the United States what to do. And the fact that they are trying to say that repealing Obamacare could violate international law is absurd. And they have no right to be telling our nation how to legislate. The UN, time after time, has condemned Israel, time after time condemned acts that the U.S. has taken in the Middle East. Yet they haven't actually supported what they are put there to do. The United Nations was put into place to keep war from happening throughout the world. War is still happening. The UN was put into place to keep freedom across the entire world. Yet they allow nations like Saudi Arabia to be a part of it. The UN is an utter and complete failure. And I actually kind of find it a little hilarious that they think that trying to get rid of a flawed piece of legislation would violate international law. But this is, again, just one doctor from Lithuania, not even a country that matters to the United States. Probably a liberal doctor, someone who thinks that everyone should be socialist, and thinks that because we're moving away from this socialized healthcare, that is bad. So he's going to condemn the U.S. because of it. He's going to say that the United States is barbaric, that we violate human rights because of it. Newsflash for this doctor. Healthcare is not a human right. Healthcare is not a right. It is a privilege. And that's why you have to pay for it. That's why it is something that you can get different levels of. It is a privilege, not a right. nowhere in the Constitution, which is the only document that matters for the United States in terms of our rights, nowhere in the Constitution does it say that healthcare is a right. Furthermore, nowhere in the Constitution does it even say that the federal government has any right meddling in healthcare. This is something that should be left to the states. This is something that shouldn't be a massive failure such as the Affordable Care Act that apparently the UN wants us to keep. The 10th Amendment dictates that healthcare ought to be left to the states. And that's how it should stay. We shouldn't be having this giant blanket policy, like all of these socialist nations throughout the world, that is a failure. People come from those nations with socialized healthcare, such as Canada, to America, because our system, even while broken right now because of Obamacare, is still better than theirs. Because when it's not socialized healthcare, it is 1,000 times better than that socialist healthcare system. Because it doesn't take years upon years for you to get a simple surgery. You're not going to die waiting for a surgery here in the United States, but you are in countries such as Canada, such as those in Europe that have socialized healthcare. Because it's free. Everything's free, according to them. I mean, you're paying for it in taxes, but they like it free. It just doesn't work that way. Their healthcare systems are broken. They have such long waits. Their doctors don't get paid, or if they do, it's very little. No one has any incentive to work. No one has any incentive to get things done in their hospitals. And what they do make, the little pay grade that they do have, 60, 70, 80% of it is taken in taxes to pay for the system. But, of course, Lithuania would want America to have a system like that. They would want America to have this socialized system. So we should listen. We should get this failure of a horrible system and put it into place here in the United States. Because the rest of the world is doing it, why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we just follow them off the cliff of healthcare? This is something that the left and a lot of people throughout the entire world have tried to bend and twist America's narrative into. They've tried to twist our agenda into going towards socialism. Something that has never worked in the past. I mean, look at Venezuela, look at Greece. Look at healthcare that is socialized. Look at college that is socialized. It doesn't work. Socialism has never and will never work in the world. It's just natural for the fact that humans don't work that way. If we're getting 90% of our income taken in taxes because we have such a large government, we're not going to want to work. We're not going to want to actually put forth a full effort because there's no way that we can improve ourselves. In the system that we have in America, you can improve yourself. You can reach that American dream. You can go out and buy whatever you want. And that's how our healthcare used to be. You used to be able to buy different sections of it. You didn't have to buy these certain different mandates that are required. But now you do. Obamacare was a failure. It was half of a step towards socialism and socialistic healthcare. And it failed just like the rest of socialism. And the fact that the UN thinks that they can condemn us over it is absurd. The UN has no jurisdiction within the United States. And quite honestly, they have no jurisdiction in the world. The UN is a failure. It is a joke. And they have no grounds whatsoever to be telling us that we're doing things wrong. Alright, that's all for today's episode of The Wise Conservative Show. I'm Connor Wise. You can find me on youthrevolt.org. Go ahead and search Youth Revolt up on Facebook.com. You can find me on Instagram at @the_wise_conservative and Spreaker.com/The Wise Conservative Show. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in, and as always, God bless.